in this lesson, we're just going to jump straight into ZBrush, talk a little bit about our reference, but in general, get our hands dirty and just start sculpting. So this little torso base mesh that I made is called Lesson 02 Start, and you have that in your project files. And you can start with that, or you can just pull out a sphere and just do this. It's quite simple. Just pulled out some arms and gave it a nice shape. The geometry isn't even that good, so we can even go ahead and just go into ZRemesher and just do a same, and then ZRemesh that, and all of a sudden we have a really nice base mesh. So we can go ahead and save that and be done with it. So before we go ahead and get sculpting, let's talk about our reference. Now, I've prepared a series of images for you guys to use, and as with most of the anatomy tutorials, I'm going to be using a lot of 3D.sk images, but I've also gathered a few from the internet in general to show you guys, and they're going to be in your reference image folders. Now, these images are going to be referenced throughout the course, so take a quick gander at them to see what it is that I am talking about, and just things in general to keep in mind. Like, you'll see that I have places for the back and the clavicles. I have a lot of ab images, so you guys can just see the crazy differences that we can have in shapes and sizes of the female torso. And in general, just a lot of good images to help you guys along. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the general structure of the torso. Now, a male torso is going to be, generally speaking, and this is, just one of those rules that we've made that aren't necessarily true in real life if you actually go to apply them. But the rule is that if you're going to make a male character, that he's going to have broad shoulders, right? A broad rib cage, like really nice barrel-chested rib cage. Some really nice pecs here. And, generally speaking, a very tiny little hip, like that. And obviously very thick arms, because it's a male, right? So something like that would be more or less a male sculpture in general. So why am I mentioning this? This is a female tutorial, right? Right. Well, the trick about males is that it's what we call the inverted triangle, right? You can draw a couple lines from the navel, and these lines generally, crisscross for the nipples and give you the angle for the shoulders. Now, for females, it's actually quite different. It's the opposite, and that's taking in those comic book proportions into account, really. So let's go ahead and let me see if I can just redo here until I get the geometry to the point where. Yeah, there you go. So right there is where we started off from. So the thing we want to keep in mind about females is, generally speaking, they're going to have a little bit more of a shorter length in their shoulders, which this already has compared to the other one. You see a big difference just by doing this. And then also they'll have a little bit of a smaller, straighter rib cage. Nothing too fancy, but most importantly is going to be this hit from the rib cage to the pelvis. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you an image here if I can just find it. So this is a really exaggerated image, but you can really see how the external obliques go in and out towards the pelvis, and then you have the abs coming in from above, and the rib cage is right here. So you have this clear separation of the lines. And I know that there's an image here that I can show you guys where that is. It's just, general rules when females. So very big external obliques coming in and outside following the pelvis, and then it goes in towards the rib cage. So you can see right here, bump, just nice little cuts, straight line for the most part. It's not always the case, but I have a lot of images here that you guys can sort of just see what I'm talking about. So nice big line into straight. So see these nice angles? So that's more or less what we're looking for. You can really see how there's no really protrusions on the rib cage. It's not really that round. So we want to keep that in mind when sculpting. So you have all these images to check out, but in general, let's just go ahead and straighten this out a little bit and then give it that nice hit that we're looking for. So I'm just going to use the move tool here and do that. So something like this is a good start. I'm just going to raise this up a little bit, get that rib a little bit higher, at the rib cage I mean. And then once that's done, you're starting to get the basic build going. Now, I want to add a little bit of the butt back here. So let's go ahead and just add some volume. Let's say the clay brush here. Just, a little bit of the volume right there. Because this will help guide us in the actual silhouette of the side right there. So once we add that, we can separate it a little bit. And already, you can sort of kind of see the feminine lines starting to go. So something like this. And then I'm going to pull this, basically, this little part right here, I'm going to pull it towards the middle. So here's what I'm doing. You guys can see that I'm adjusting it, this little entrance right there. And what that's going to give me is a nice little line going inside right there, cutting in the external obliques. So now I can have them come out right here, see, on top of the pelvis, and you can sort of start shaping it to get nice, detailed looking shapes for the external obliques. So something like this, just to get us started. But you can see that it's a really flat looking torso, right? I mean, we added a little bit of the butt right here in the back, but it's not really working out that well for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and inflate this after cutting it a little bit and just push it back. The thing about working on torsos that don't have legs is that you end up getting yourself into a little bit of trouble when trying to create the pelvis area. And that's very true for females specifically. So I'm going to mask off this little piece, as you guys just saw, underneath, and I'm going to pull these out and then in and create sort of the leg shape from underneath. See? Something like that. So we're getting there, and there's a lot of little bits and pieces that we have to fix. But in general, we're starting to get there. So something like that's going to help us out. And again, the Z-remesher isn't really necessary because I'm just going to re-dynamesh all this anyway. And the thing that I want to add now is the crotch right here, down at the bottom. Now the way to get this looking decent is by actually adding a little cut that goes around and up like this. And what this cut's going to do, if you see right there, I'm undoing here so you can see, is that if you cut right there and go all the way under, when you smooth it, you start to separate the external obliques from the entrance of the legs. So this here is going to be the great trochanter, where the femur goes in, but females have fat pads here. And this is something we're going to cover on the leg tutorial. But for now, just make sure that this is a nice round full shape. I'm using the clay brush, and I have lazy mouse on with 1 in the lazy radius. And that's how I get these nice soft strokes when sculpting. So just make sure it's nice and round, something like this. And again, make sure that it pulls up right there. See? This is what we need right there. So that's a start, okay? It's nothing amazing right now. It's quite bad at the moment, but we're going to go ahead and fix it. Let's just go ahead and use the move tool and just drag these in together. Get those legs nice and thick. And just make sure we fill them in the back. And then, we can start tweaking this area here when we get a little bit more detail. But in general, what we've done is this. We've added larger pelvis, a really large pelvis right here, into a straight rib cage, into very thin arms, and then, nice looking little shaped body. So we have a lot of tweaks to do here, like for example, pull this down. This is an angle that everybody has in their body, and that's the direction that the abs flow into the groin area. And you want to make sure that you have this nice curve right here, okay? Very nice, soft curve. And then the other thing that you want to add is just a little hit on the middle of the stomach right there for your navel. And then you pull it out, or belly button, if you don't know what a navel is. For us not native English speakers, that could be a tricky word. So the belly button gets added, and then you start getting these contours here that are going to work a little bit better for us. Have plenty of stuff to do to this still, but this is the broad strokes going in. So let's go ahead and in the next lesson continue sculpting on this torso.